What's up, YouTube? It's your boy IJ here, back with another edition of the I'm Just Talking podcast. In today's episode, we got a lot to talk about from the latest in the NFL, from all the injuries that's been going on, plus looking at the outcomes from this past weekend. We're also talking about the NBA, talking about the Western Conference, making my predictions for that conference, and making my prediction for tonight's game because the NBA officially kicks off tonight, and it's between the Knicks and the Celtics to kick things off on TNT. And then later tonight, after that game, it will be between the Lakers and the Minnesota Timberwolves. But before we get started, as always, gotta give on to God because without him, I wouldn't be able to do this. And not gonna waste you guys' time. Let's go ahead and just jump right into it. So to kick things off, we're gonna be talking about the New Orleans Saints. They came off a pretty bad loss against the Denver Broncos this past Thursday, but I ain't gonna trip over it. Okay, I ain't gonna trip over it because it doesn't need to, get that much attention that it should be because I've already said my piece about the team, in the current state of this in. But help is on the way because we had this mini bye week, like I stated last week, so potentially we'll have some guys coming back like Taysom Hill, like Cesar Ruiz on the offensive line, and on the defensive side, guys like Pete Warner as well. So hopefully, against the Chargers, we'll be able to make some shake with a few guys that are healthy. And we also went out and signed a former Super Bowl winning wide receiver. Reading this from ESPN.com, it says veteran wide receiver Marquez Valdes-Scantling has agreed to terms with the New Orleans Saints, a source confirmed to ESPN on Monday. Valdes-Scantling visited the Saints on Monday, working out and taking the physical before meeting with the head coach of the New Orleans Saints. His name will no longer be mentioned on this channel until he ultimately gets released, fired, out of here. So his name will no longer be announced on this channel, unless some serious situation comes up regarding him. But his name will no longer be announced. I know he has injuries, but it all starts with the head coach. If your head coach ain't motivating the team right, then he's got to go. He's a defensive-minded head coach, but the defense been getting belts behind lately. So no longer gonna mention his name, but let's keep reading. This is what the head coach had to say. He said, and I quote, "He had a good workout this morning. He ran pretty good. I think so far it's been a good visit." End quote. And this is coming off the heels of the Saints losing Rashid Shaheed to that knee injury. He had surgery in LA, and it's a surgery that will keep him out 4 to 6 months, essentially ending his season. And reading from ESPN, it says Shaheed had season-ending surgery to repair meniscus last week. An all-pro kick return, he was leading the team in receiving yards and touchdown before his injury. So, obviously a tough blow losing Shaheed, but a guy like Marquez Valdes-Scantling, who's been a pretty good receiver in his career so far, just to read off his stats, Valdes-Scantling, still reading from ESPN.com, says Valdes-Scantling has started 60 games with 188 catches for 3,181 yards and 16 touchdowns. He had a touchdown catch in the Chiefs win against the San Francisco 49ers in the previous Super Bowl. So, like I said, good pickup for the Saints. I like this because we needed help at the wide receiver room, especially with Shaheed, like I said, being out. And Olave still in the concussion protocol, but hopefully during practice this week, he'll be able to practice and he'll ultimately get off the concussion protocol. It's a process, and the reason why he's still in there because the Saints really haven't had time to go through a real practice. Last week, yes, they practiced, but they were mainly walkthrough practices. So that's why he's still in the concussion protocol. But when he comes back, plus Marquez Valdes-Scantling, and then hopefully guys like Cedric Wilson Jr. and Mason Tillman continue to step up, Bud Means as well, this can still be a pretty good receiving core. Then the Titans by Juwan Johnson and Foster Moreau, they've been stepping up in the last couple games as well. So I still have hope for the offense. It's just the O-line, like I said, they just need to get healthy. I think Cesar Ruiz coming back, hopefully against the Chargers, will help things out. And in other news, Spencer Rattler is going to remain the starting quarterback until Derek Carr comes back. The only reason they had him leave the game against the Broncos this past Thursday was because he had a hip pointer, and the game was pretty much out of reach, so you didn't want to cause any further injury. So, like I said, good pickup for the Saints. And the head coach also said this, and I quote, "He's a big receiver, got a good speed element to him, and he's somebody that can fit some of the things that we might be needing, in particular with the loss of Shaheed. Another speed element is something I think we can consider," end quote. So that's what the head coach for the New Orleans Saints had to say about that. And like I said, good pickup. Hopefully he's able to build some chemistry with not only Spencer Rattler, but Derek Carr when he comes back as well. Now looking at the results from this past weekend in the NFL, obviously Thursday, like I stated, the Saints lost to the Broncos 33-10. The Patriots ended up taking the L to the Jaguars 32-16. The Seahawks were able to get a victory over the Falcons 34-14, so that kind of helps us in a way. We have to handle our business, but that is good for our sake in the division. The Bills were able to defeat the Titans 34-10. The Bengals were able to get a pretty close win against the Browns 21-14. The Packers were able to defeat the Texans off of a last-second field goal 24-22. The Colts were able to defeat the Dolphins 16-10. The Detroit Lions were able to give the Vikings their first L as they were able to defeat them 31-29. The Lions are now the division leaders in that division right now. The Eagles were able to defeat the Giants 28-3. That score sounds a lot familiar, but we're not going to go into that. It was Saquon Barkley's homecoming. He had a great game against the Giants, and that just proves to you that you shouldn't have let him go. You shouldn't have let him go if you were the Giants. You chose Daniel Jones over him, and now you're suffering the consequences. The Rams were able to defeat the Raiders 20-15. The Commanders were able to defeat the Panthers 40-7 in a game where star quarterback Jayden Daniels left in the first quarter, but that didn't matter because the Commanders were still able to, beat up on the Carolina Panthers. And I just feel bad for them. I really do. The Chiefs were able to get the victory in the Super Bowl rematch against the 49ers 28-18. The Steelers were able to spoil the reunion of Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams by defeating the Jets 37-15 in the game where Russell Wilson started. And he looked kind of shaky at first, but he was able to get things going and ultimately help will the Steelers to a victory. And then the defense had some good turnovers on Aaron Rodgers as well. The Ravens were able to defeat the Buccaneers last night 41-31. Again, that's another game that helps us out. Like I said, we have to take care of our business, but helps us out. And then the Cardinals were able to win off of a last-second field goal as well against the Chargers. Now we got that out the way, let's look at some of the injuries that have occurred this past weekend. Let's start off with the Cleveland Browns. I always get those teams confused because they're in Ohio and they both start with a C. But anyway, Deshaun Watson will be out for the remainder of the season due to a torn Achilles. It was a non-contact injury. And for Cleveland, I honestly don't know how you should feel because obviously the man was struggling. And then when you look at his past, some people were, some Browns fans were a little excited about it. Me personally, I don't cheer a man when he's down, especially when he gets hurt, but that's just me. And obviously they were probably, with the combination of the off-field stuff plus his on-field performance, they were just, probably seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. Plus his big contract as well. But like I said, you shouldn't boo a man when he gets hurt, and you shouldn't boo him when he's down. But this is a pretty good question for the Cleveland Browns. I want to say Cincinnati so bad, but for the Cleveland Browns, this question is, who is the starting quarterback now? Because looking at this from NFL.com, it says quarterback Dorian Thompson-Robinson, who stepped in for Deshaun Watson when he got hurt, is undergoing more evaluation to determine the severity of his finger injury suffered Sunday per head coach Kevin Stefanski. So that posed the question, who's going to be your quarterback? Obviously, you have Jameis Winston, but even though I like Jameis and I like his personality, when he's the starting quarterback, he'll give you some touchdowns, but he'll also give you a few interceptions/turnovers. So it's going to be interesting to see how things play out in Cleveland at the quarterback spot. They did go out and sign Bailey Zappi off Kansas City's practice squad as well. So it'll be interesting to see what happens at the quarterback position. Then looking ahead, well, not looking ahead, but looking at the other injuries, for the Raiders, quarterback Aiden O'Connell will be placed on injury reserve after the test confirmed that he suffered a fractured thumb on Sunday versus the LA Rams. Reading that from NFL.com, and that's coming from NFL Network insiders Ian Rappaport and Mike Garafolo. But they did go out and sign quarterback Desmond Ridder off Arizona's practice squad as well to not consolidate, but to, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. But it was to, in response. Yeah, that's the word. In response to that injury, they went out and signed quarterback Desmond Ridder off Arizona's practice squad. So, another question, the same question from the Cleveland Browns now goes to the Las Vegas Raiders, who's going to be the starting quarterback? Obviously, Gardner Minshew, he's been good when he has to step in at the quarterback spot. But Desmond Ridder, even though he was a little shaky in Atlanta, I feel as if he's able to get the chance, he can prove that he can still be a starting caliber quarterback in the NFL. But only time will tell when it comes to that. Then, with the Miami Dolphins, quarterback Tua Tagovailoa will return to practice this week. This coming from head coach Mike McDaniel. The team is hopeful Tagovailoa will clear the concussion protocol and play Sunday against Arizona. Coach Mike McDaniel also added to that statement. Now, I don't know. I honestly don't know about that, mainly because if you put him out there, and then he even stated himself, Tua stated in the interview, well, in the press conference, he stated that he wasn't going to wear the garden cap, basically the cap that NFL players wear during training camp to like prevent concussions. He's not going to wear that during a game. So essentially, he's still putting himself in danger, but he's still playing the game that he loves. The fact he's still able to come back and do what he loves to do and play the game that he loves, like I stated, it's still a huge accomplishment. But I'm just hoping that he takes precautions and he just be safe on the field. That's all I'm asking. Hassan Reddick has agreed to a rework contract with the New York Jets. So now he's back with the team, and hopefully they're saying that he'll be able to make his debut with the team next week against the Patriots. And then Brandon Ayuk, wide receiver for the San Francisco 49ers. He'll be out for the rest of the season with a torn ACL and MCL. NFL Network insider Ian Rappaport reported, and the team would later announce the news. And wide receiver Deebo Samuel was hospitalized with pneumonia and fluid in his lungs. So hopefully he'll be okay. And then tight end George Kittle is also dealing with a foot sprain and considered day-to-day. So a lot of injuries for the San Francisco 49ers. A lot of injuries for him. Brandon Ayuk, that's going to hurt them the most, mainly because he was a productive receiver when healthy. Now, obviously, this season he hasn't been able to do much. And it's crazy because he basically held up the whole summer. It was the summer of Ayuk with the whole contract dispute between him and the 49ers. And now he gets hurt, and he really wasn't, producing to the level that he's supposed to be producing on the field before the injury. So that just sucks. And the 49ers, they just have a slew of injuries. Christian McCaffrey is still out with the hamstring Achilles injury as well. So it's a tough blow for the 49ers. Wide receiver DK Metcalf suffered a grade 1 MCL sprain during Sunday's win over the Falcons, and he's considered week-to-week. NFL Network insider Ian Rappaport reported. And then finally, well, not finally, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they have two wide receivers dealing with injuries. One, Mike Evans, he re-aggravated a hamstring injury that he had been dealing with going into the game with the Baltimore Ravens. And wide receiver Chris Godwin, this one sucks because this game was pretty much decided, and that's when the injury happened late in the Buccaneers-Ravens game. Chris Godwin suffered a left ankle injury, and he was carted off the field, and it's been later stated that it was a dislocated ankle, and he will be out for the rest of the season. So, tough break for Chris Godwin and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and it just sucks. It really does. He was producing well for him. He was having a good season. Now they're going to have some guys on the depth chart to step up for him and hopefully keep things afloat, because this conference, not the conference, but the division, the NFC South, it's technically still wide open. Right now it's between the Bucs and the Falcons, but if the Saints can, get some of their guys back healthy, they can still make things happen. They can still go on the run themselves. So the division, like in previous years, is still open. Then finally, with quarterback Jaden Daniels, he suffered a rib injury in the first quarter of Sunday's game between the Panthers and the Commanders. And Coach Dan Quinn said that he is week to week after suffering that injury. So obviously that sucks because he was having a great season, a great rookie season to start things off for him. But be precautious, because Marcus Mariota, even though it was against the Panthers, they still were able to, put some points up, and hopefully he can still be able to do things as long as Jaden Daniels is still out. Marcus Mariota, he's still a veteran quarterback, a still pretty solid quarterback for your team. He was a former top pick in the draft, so hopefully he can keep things afloat for the Commanders as well. And yeah, that's pretty much all the injury news in regards to, all things that happened this past weekend. We have some news regarding the Cowboys. Micah Parsons, is expected to be a game-time decision for Sunday's game against the 49ers. That's what owner Jerry Jones said per The Athletic. And cornerback Darren Bland is expected to be a game-time decision as well. So those are all the injury news. That's a lot of news in regards to injuries, but that's the territory that comes with playing the game of football. A lot of injuries, like a lot of injuries this weekend. But wishing them speedy recovery, especially to Deshaun Watson, Chris Godwin, and Jane Daniels, and all the other guys that I mentioned on here as well. Switching gears now to the SWAC division, Jackson State was able to get a great victory over Florida A&M, defeating them 35-21, a game where I was in attendance in, and it was a close game throughout. It was a close game during the first three quarters, but Jackson State was able to pull away in the fourth quarter after a recovered fumble for a touchdown, and then forcing another fumble on the next drive that ultimately led the offense, scoring another touchdown. They ultimately won the game 35-21. Shout out to Earl Mulligan, running back for Jackson State, as he was named Offensive Player of the Week after that game against Florida A&M. Then looking at the other games from this past weekend, the SWAC, Southern was able to get a victory over Alcorn State 24-14. Bethune-Cookman was able to get a victory over Mississippi Valley State 20-10, while Grambling State defeated Arkansas Pine Bluff 31-21. Then looking at the conference as a whole in the SWAC East, the Jackson State Tigers are leading the way with a 3-0 conference record and have a 5-2 record overall. Alabama State, they're behind Jackson State with a 2-1 record in the conference and have a 3-3 record overall, while Florida A&M and Alabama A&M both have 1-1 records in the conference play while being 3-3 overall during the season. Then the SWAC West, Southern's leading the way with a 3-0 conference record while having a 4-3 record overall. Alcorn State's behind them with a 3-1 conference record and a 4-4 record overall. And Grambling State has a 1-2 record in conference play, but they're 4-3 overall for the season. Then other quick news with Jackson State, they're now ranked number 23 in the FCS coaches poll. So they're, making strides in that category. So shout out to Jackson State for that. Then looking at the AP Top 25, the real change is in Alabama. Alabama, they've lost 2 in a row. They now are at the number 15 spot, while teams like Oregon is now number 1. Texas has dropped to the number 5 spot, and Georgia has gone to the number 2 spot. So a lot of moving factors in the FBS in college football, especially with the top 25 teams. So something to monitor and something to keep track of with the 12-team playoff race. It'll be interesting to see which teams will be able to get those spots once playoff comes around for college football. Now, let's switch gears to the NBA. We officially have some NBA games tonight. No more preseason games. No more tune-up. This is the real thing. The games are starting to count. To kick things off, we got the Knicks taking on the Celtics. That should be a good one on TNT at 6:30 Central Time, with the Timberwolves and Lakers coming up right after that game on TNT as well. 2 good games. Before I make my predictions for those games, I want to talk about the Western Conference, and I want to make my predictions on how I think the conference will fare out this year, how the seasons will go. I did the same thing for the Eastern Conference in the last episode. Now, in today's episode, we're going to be looking at the Western Conference. So, at number 1, I decided to put the Minnesota Timberwolves for that number 1 seed, mainly because I like how they played last year. They played stellar last year. I think they'll continue that momentum from last year and carry that over into this year. Anthony Edwards, he's still going to continue to ascend in the right direction. Now, they did lose Karl Anthony Towns in the trade for Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo, but they still have Rudy Gobert, a good defensive interior presence, and they still have Naz Reid coming off the bench. And, the center spot, it was kind of like a question of how Rudy Gobert and Karl Anthony Towns was going to fare. Now it's going to be Rudy Gobert at the center spot with Naz Reid coming in and being possibly that 6th man coming off the bench. So that's why I had the Timberwolves at number 1. It was really close between them, the Thunder, and the Nuggets, and I threw the Mavericks. I'll throw the Mavericks in there as well. But the Timberwolves, I just like what they've been doing and how Anthony Edwards has been playing. And I think overall, as a team, they'll continue to ascend in the right direction. At number 2, I decided to put the Oklahoma City Thunder here, a team that shocked the world last year. They were the number 1 seed, the youngest number 1 seed in the NBA. And the reason why I had them at number 2, because when they and the Timberwolves will go head-to-head this season, I think the Timberwolves will have a winning record against them. That's why I have them at number 2. I still think both teams will win 50-plus games, but it ultimately comes down to those head-to-head competitions between them. And the Thunder, they still have some nice young pieces. They got Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. They got Chet Holmgren. They got Jalen Williams, both Jalen Williams. They went out and signed Isaiah Hartenstein from the Knicks. We're also training for Alex Caruso in the offseason as well. So Hartenstein, he'll miss probably the first 10, 15 games of the season. But once he comes back, then they have the option to start him and Chet Holmgren on the court or have Hartenstein come off the bench. So it's a good situation to have for the Thunder. They have, like I said, nice young pieces, and they'll continue to be a huge factor in the NBA for years to come. Then number 3, I got the Dallas Mavericks. Now, the Mavericks made the finals this past season. They weren't able to defeat the Celtics, but they still had a pretty good year. They had a good season. Luka Doncic, we all know he's capable of. Kyrie Irving. Then they went out and signed Klay Thompson as well. They were able to get some rebounding last year. That was the real big problem for them in previous years. But Daniel Gafford and P.J. Washington, they were both, good on the rebounding side of the ball, and they were able to get you some points as well. So the Mavericks, it really just comes down to how Klay Thompson will be able to fit into his role, because in the preseason, he kind of struggled shooting. But I would rather him struggle shooting in the preseason than to have it come in the regular season or in the playoff game. So Klay Thompson, I think he'll be straight. He just got, just getting used to that system. Plus, he's in a new environment, and I think he'll thrive in that environment. I think his time at Golden State was going to come to an end, and it was a fresh start for not only the Warriors and him as well. So I think he'll be straight. I think he'll still be a great shooter. It's just a matter of being consistent with the Mavericks. Then number 4, I got the Denver Nuggets. Now, the Nuggets, they're a team that won the finals a couple seasons ago, but I don't know. They've lost a lot of pieces from that championship team, and their bench really concerns me. Now, they still have Nikola Jokic, and a lot of people's eyes one of the best NBA players in the world. In my opinion, it's him, and then you have to throw Luka into that category as well. But really, if you ask me, it's Nikola Jokic at number 1 for the best player in the world right now. And Jamal Murray, if he can just stay healthy, he'll be a good addition for that team as well. But really, besides that, the Nuggets, it really just comes down to how their bench will be able to produce. That's why I had them at the number 4 spot. The Pelicans at the number 5 spot. The Pelicans are a team that's, I don't know, when healthy, they're one of the best teams in the NBA. But when they're not healthy, they're just another team that's vying for a playing spot. So it really just comes down to help with that team. Brandon Ingram, he can stay healthy along with Zion Williamson and C.J. McCollum and those guys. They can still be a pretty good team once the playoff comes around. Now, the center spot is a question mark for them. They lost Jonas Valanciunas this offseason as he went out and signed with the Washington Wizards. But if they're able to, get good production from the center spot, I think they're going to move Zion to the center spot and then have Daniel Tice, a guy that they signed in the offseason, come off the bench for them. But if they're able to still get good production with that small ball lineup, then I think they'll be straight. Then number 6, this was a team that when I was going through and making this list, I completely forgot about, and that's the Memphis Grizzlies. Because the Grizzlies last year, we all know what happened to them. Ja Morant got suspended for the first 25 games to start the year. They started out poorly. Then Ja comes back. He provides that spark that the team was missing. Then he gets hurt, and they just dealt with injuries throughout the whole season. But with Ja being back and healthy, along with the other guys like Brandon Clark being healthy, Jaren Jackson Jr. being healthy, and then Marcus Smart as well being healthy, and then they went out and drafted Zach Edey as well. So the Memphis Grizzlies, they're going to be a team to watch out for this season. A lot of people are sleeping on them because of the injuries and what they endured last year, but don't sleep on Memphis. Okay, I made a whole video about that. Don't sleep on them. Okay, they're still a good team, and they're going to make some noise this season. That's why I have them getting that final playoff spot at the number 6 spot. Now 7 through 10. This was also interesting in the Western Conference. At number 7 for the play-in, I decided to put the Kings in that spot. They went out and got DeMar DeRozan this offseason in a sign and trade for him. And really, with the Kings last year, they lost a lot of close games last year. They lost a lot of close games, but with Mr. Clutch himself, DeMar DeRozan, hitting those clutch shots, I think they'll help them out this year in those close games. And overall, they just got to stay healthy for the Sacramento Kings. They still have a good squad on them, but they just had to stay healthy. At number 8, I decided to put the Phoenix Suns here, a team that really couldn't stay healthy last year. The top 3 guys, they couldn't stay on the court together, and by the time they were on the court together, they couldn't get enough chemistry going. And then plus, they didn't have a lot of production coming off the bench, and then they didn't have a real true point guard as well. But they went out and signed Tyus Jones, a good point guard, if you've been keeping up with him and his career. And then the bench is still a question mark, but I think they'll get better production coming off the bench this year. And the competition this year in the Western Conference is just stacked. That's why I had them at the playing spot. I think they'll still make the playoffs, but as of right now, I just have the Phoenix Suns making the play-in. Then number 9, we have the Houston Rockets, a team that was on the up and up last year. I respect what the Rockets have been building the last couple of years. Jalen Green, Şengün as well, along with Jabari Smith Jr. And also Dylan Brooks, who was a good pickup for them this past season. And the Rockets, if they can just, stay healthy, Şengün, he missed a good portion of the season. I believe he missed think 15 to 20 games with that ankle injury. And then once he got hurt, Jalen Green just ascended. He just went crazy. But like I stated, if they're able to get production between Şengün and Jalen Green both on the court together, then that'll make the Rockets a way better team. I stated that in one of my previous episodes when I was talking about the Houston Rockets, and I think they're able to get that. They'll be able to be a good team and make the play-in tournament. Then number 10, this is going to surprise some people. At number 10, I'm going to go with the San Antonio Spurs. I think the Spurs are going to make that ascension this year with Victor Wembanyama already doing what he can do, and then having a veteran like Chris Paul who's able to, not only help Wemby out, but help the team out overall. And they also have a veteran in Harrison Barnes as well who can get some good points up for them. And it's like every time Chris Paul joins the team, they make the playoffs. Even if they didn't make the playoffs in previous years, they just make the playoffs magically. Like that one year when he was with the Oklahoma City Thunder, a lot of people thought they weren't going to make the playoffs. But then in the NBA bubble, they were able to not only make the playoffs, but they pushed that James Harden-led Rockets team to 7 games. It was the Harden and the Russell Westbrook Rockets team. So I'm just saying, all right, if the Spurs are able to, stay healthy, Wemby can stay healthy, and they're able to, get good chemistry going and have the young guys step up in the right direction, I think the Spurs will fool around and make the play-in. Now, will they make the playoffs? I don't know, but at the end of the day, I think they'll get that final play-in spot at the number 10 spot. Then number 11, we got the Golden State Warriors. Now, I didn't really want to do that. I didn't want to put my boy Steph Curry at 11, but I just feel as if the Warriors, their championship window is closed. I just think that Steph, he's still going to, give them good production. It's just the team around him that concerns me. Can Draymond stay out of trouble? Can he just stay out of, foul trouble and, not get technical fouls and all that? And like I said, can the team around step up? Can Kuminga continue to step up? Can Moses Moody step in and step up? Can Podziemski also step up as well? And then they went out and signed Buddy Hield as well. That's basically their replacement for Klay Thompson. So this team can still, make the play-in tournament, but I just think that if things go AWire for the Warriors, then they'll be, possibly going to a rebuild. I don't know. But like I say, if things go AWire for them this season, then I just think that they'll, not only not make the play-in tournament, but they'll be looking towards the future as well. Then number 12, I got the Lakers. Now, the Lakers, they're a team, and to be real with y'all, I don't even know how to describe the Lakers. They're a team that is more focused on, if you ask me, media attention than actually winning NBA games. And that, proved itself when they drafted Bronny James in the second round. Now, Bronny, I haven't really talked about him. I really haven't on this channel, but I'm going to say this. Bronny has the potential to be a solid role player in the NBA. We don't need to compare him to his dad. We don't need to, put that type of pressure on him because let's remember, this is a guy in college who didn't put up the best of numbers, but he still played, despite him having that cardiac arrest. The fact that he was still able to go out there is a miracle in itself. So, but with that being said, though, there's been a lot of talk about whether or not he deserved to be drafted, and people going to be like, well, he's a 55th overall pick, so you're not really, putting that much stock into him, which I agree with, but at the same time, the media has been covering him like he's been a top 10 pick. And he has it. Now, he did have one of his best preseason games against the Warriors in the final preseason game, but I just don't know. He just needs to, take a year, get himself, some reps in the G League, and then see where he can, provide a role for the Lakers in future years to come. But he has a good supporting cast, obviously with his dad and LeBron James being the his number one supporter. So that in itself is going to help Bronny out a lot. And if the coaches are able to, get him in the right direction, then I think Bronny will still be able to carve out a pretty good NBA career. And I'm rooting for him. I really am. He's getting a lot of, I don't want to say hate, but the reason why people been hating on him is because the media's been covering him like he's a top 10 pick, but he's been playing like, a second round pick. But like I stated, I think he's still going to be able to carve out a pretty good career. As for the Lakers team as a whole, I just don't know. This team isn't built to win a championship, if you ask me. It's really not. Their main two guys, LeBron James and Anthony Davis. AD, I'll give him credit where credit's due. He was able to stay healthy for a good amount of the season last year. But it's just the Lakers team overall. Austin Reeves, he can still provide buckets for you. And it's just a matter of how the lineup is going to shake out for the Lakers. If they're able to get a good lineup going, and if J.J. Redick is able to, coach them in the right way and get a good rotation going, then they can still, fool around and make the playing spot. But I just don't see the Lakers making it, especially with, the team that they have right now constructed. I just don't think they're going to be able to make it. I just don't think they'll make the playing tournament. And yeah, I don't know. The Lakers, they're a question mark, but I'll give them this. Even when people have doubted them in previous seasons, they still been able to, not only make the playing tournament, but have a pretty good showing in the playoffs. They led most of the time against the Nuggets in last year's playoffs, but it was just those last second games where they ultimately let it slip away. So I got respect for LeBron James. I got respect for the Lakers. I just don't know how the rotation is going to fare out this year, and I just don't know how they're going to be able to shake things in a loaded Western Conference. Then number 13, I got the Clippers. Now, Kawhi Leonard, he's going to be out for an indefinite amount of time. And there are people talking about he should go ahead and retire. I agree. I really do. I like Kawhi. He's a fun guy. But I don't know. It's just he can't stay healthy. And then this Clippers team overall isn't, it's basically the same with the Lakers. I just don't see them, winning a lot of games this year. James Harden, he's still on the team, but as of right now, he's really the only guy that's probably going to be getting a lot of production from the team. Now, Nicholas Batum and all those guys, if they can step up in the right direction, they can be able to, help the team out. But I just don't think they'll be able to make that playing spot. Then number 14, I got the Jazz. The Jazz have been a pretty competitive team in previous years, but I just think that this is going to be the time where they officially go full rebuild mode and ultimately start trading players like Jordan Clarkson and possibly Lauren Markin. They just gave him a new contract this offseason, but I don't know. They might keep marking it, but a guy like Jordan Clarkson may be on the trading block if things aren't looking good for the Jazz. And then number 15, I got the Portland Trail Blazers. I think the Blazers will be a competitive team, but they won't be competitive enough to win 25, 35 games. I think they'll win at most probably 22, 23 games. If I was a betting man, I would take the under of 25 wins. But that's just my assessment on the Portland Trail Blazers. Like I said, still going to be a competitive team, but I don't think they're going to be able to, make things happen in the loaded Western Conference. So that's my prediction for the Western Conference. Number 1, Timberwolves. Number 2, the Thunder. Number 3, the Mavericks. Number 4, the Nuggets. Number 5, the Pelicans. Number 6, the Grizzlies. Number 7, the Kings. Number 8, the Phoenix Suns. Number 9, the Houston Rockets. Number 10, the San Antonio Spurs. Number 11, the Golden State Warriors. Number 12, the Los Angeles Lakers. Number 13, the Clippers. Number 14, the Utah Jazz. And number 15, the Portland Trail Blazers. Now, before I sign off, I want to quickly give my predictions for tonight's game. For the Knicks and the Celtics, I'm going to go with the New York Knicks. I think with Kristaps Porzingis not being ready to start the year, I think the Knicks will be able to take advantage of that. And with Karl-Anthony Towns being the man in the middle at the center spot and Jalen Brunson as well, I think they'll be able to get a victory over the Boston Celtics. And then Timberwolves taking on the Lakers. I'm going to the Minnesota Timberwolves. I think the Timberwolves are going to be locked in tonight. And Anthony Edwards is going to have a pretty good game. And they'll ultimately beat the LA Lakers tonight. So, appreciate you guys for tuning in and listening. And, as always, KGF, keep God first. Love y'all. Appreciate y'all. Peace. I'm out.